Hello, everyone. Zoom is doing that now. Hi, everyone. I have with me today Geri Brown from the Dance Education Equity Association. She also runs Always Enough Foundation and Liberate Artists. So a lot of great work Geri does. So glad to have you here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. We are in, like I was just explaining, we're in full prep mode for my one organization, Liberate Artists, while giving trainings at DEA and doing all these fundraising events with Always Enough Foundation. So that woo was just like, because we're in it now, it's like COVID's not over, but like we're back. We're like ready to go.
We'll get into all that. So I love it. To start off with DEA, Dance Education Equity Association. I always just kind of like to read the mission statement, kind of dissect that a little bit. Dance Education Equity Association utilizes education to implement transformative guidelines of safety, equity, and inclusivity. How did that take shape?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to thank you for having me today. I'm really excited to be here. So Thanks. Basically, I run an organization called Liberate Artists, and after the murder of George Floyd, we were trying to figure out a way to like bring the community together, bring dancers together, and really build an online experience that was reflective of what we do at Liberate Artists, an experience where it was all people from all backgrounds, where we had like this ideal team of teachers and educators and people that came from everywhere. And it would be completely free. And so we did this, and we had over 900 registrants from all over the world. We also had teacher trainings there that were explaining kind of like how to build equitable classrooms and what that looked like. And so from there, one of my teachers who's a part of Liberate Artists, Maureen, and I, we kept getting kind of feedback from parents like, okay, where do I go after this? Because I love what Forward Movement did. That's what it was called. And I want to be able to go someplace else. Like, I want to know what competitions and conventions I could go to, because Liberate is not a competition or convention. We run summer events, but we don't fall in that category. And so Maureen and we got a team of volunteers together to start researching and figuring out like, where can people go? What organizations can we recommend that are safe, equitable, and inclusive in the dance education space, specifically the dance competition and convention space, because that's where a lot of the capital in this education sphere goes, which is K through 12. And so we were right. So we were like, okay, so we started evaluating. We evaluated 70 organizations based on visibility. So this is what they were visibly presenting on their social media, on their website, on anything that we could just find legally online, because we were just like, what would a customer see essentially?
Right. Yeah.
What we found from that was that dance is not safe, equitable, and inclusive for all. 94% of the right? Yeah.
Not hard. That's what it is. Yep.
94% of the organizations we evaluated were run by white people. And the issue isn't necessarily, I mean, yes, we need more diversity, which is kind of something that I'm conflicted about, like using that term, and I can explain why later. But yes, we need more people of color at the helm of these organizations. But what that really shows you is that when people come from similar racial backgrounds, they might have similar biases that are going to be putting into play in these organizations. Now, we know everybody comes from different backgrounds, whether that's socioeconomical, whether that's, their city and state they grew up. Like, we understand that as well. But like, being in this Black body and living in this Black experience means that similarly, other Black people would probably experience similar things to what I experienced, and same with white people, and same with Latinx folks, and people that are indigenous. And so when I saw that, and I saw that there were common trends within these organizations, along with Maureen, like some organizations on their social media, we did the last 30 posts, and some had no people of color in the last 30 posts, not one. Some people had no people of color on staff at all, not one.
Yeah.
And right? To run a dance competition or convention in 2020 at the time and not have any people on color on staff is really like, there's no excuse for that. So once we kind of saw that, and then also the claims of sexual assault and sexual abuse that really came to forefront last year in a way that we haven't seen since in gymnastics with Larry Nassar and all those folks, those abusers, I should say, not folks, those abusers. we decided that there needed to be an organization outside of Liberate Artists that could help support organizations in a compassionate way to build safe, equitable, and inclusive spaces, because we believe organizations want to do better because they're working with kids.
Mm.
We just believe that they don't have the tools to do it and know how. Specifically coming from a perspective that is people of color, person of color run. I'm Black. My team is all colors and all races, all also genders as well, and the members of the LGBTQIA2 plus community and people that have disabilities and all these different folks that have not really been in the conversation of how do we make dance safe for them, for everybody, because it's really most people.
Mm. So many great points to pick apart there. Yeah. Whew. I do agree. I was thinking that a little bit, that, there are people who are just not on board with change. And it's like, that's a whole other conversation about what you do there.
Yeah.
But there are so many people, I feel like, who, coming from a privileged position, they want to be part of change. They want to be part of the solution, not part of the problem, to go back to that old phrase, but they just kind of don't know how, right? Yeah. So that is when that work of tool building, of information sharing, just getting the data, like you were describing, can really start to make a difference, I think, to give those people those tools.
Yeah, and for us, it's really about changing the systems and the policies and procedures within an organization, because it's those policies and procedures that are allowing harm to keep recurring, and you might not understand why. Like, there was one organization this year that had to let go of 3 people, 1 due to racism and 2 due to allegations of sexual assault and sexual abuse. And I'm like, hey, this is systemic within your organization. There are things going on in policies and procedures that need to be changed so that folks understand what is appropriate and not appropriate within your organization.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say it's not the individual, it's the system.
Yeah.
When people do harmful things and they get away with it, the matter at hand is not so much the person, it's the system that allowed that to happen. Right?
Yeah, it continues to allow it to happen. That's the issue. And like, individuals have power in this too. Like, they have action that they need to take, but like, unless the structures that are put into place to support that change, then it's kind of like, that's kind of my problem with the word diversity, right? So we are like, we're going to find all these Black teachers, we're going to hire them all, but the organizations that they go to aren't safe for them. And then you see this high turnover of Black people, brown people that aren't safe to work in those spaces. And you don't understand why, because you met the diversity quota. That's why I hate diversity, because that doesn't solve the issues that are at play. It just puts Black and brown people in more harmful situations.
Right. And to my mind, also, it goes back to those policies and procedures. Like, it's just on my mind a little bit that, the New York Democratic primary just happened.
Yes.
The mayoral race, just this heated mayoral race, but like, you have Eric Adams, who's leading, and he's a Black man, and yet that's wonderful, to have a person of color leading New York City, but it's like, do his policies support people of color, even though, he is a person of color. So, there could be that separation there. So again, like, the important thing is, like, what is the effect on the people at hand, the communities at hand, the marginalized people, marginalized groups at hand.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it from that perspective too, you can weed out just because you're Black or brown or Indigenous or queer doesn't mean that you understand your commitment to making sure that spaces are safe, equitable, and inclusive. That's the same problem with just putting a Black person in a space and expecting them to be able to teach you how to make your space for all people. It really is like people that understand this work and are doing this work and committed to this work that you have to look for. And what I've learned over the past year is that comes in all races, all genders, all abilities. And it's really about connecting with the right folks more so than just saying Black, he's Black, he's good, then I'm gonna vote for him. And like, really, with that mayoral race, it's like I'm not in New York, but I live in Los Angeles actually. His policies, like, I wouldn't vote for. They're questionable, and sometimes it's not just about like that diversity quota. Like, it should never be about that. And if it is, it's diversity and not diversity or, like, and making sure that it's equitable and whatever.
That's a really great way to put it, like, great frame, just like kind of pithy, like diversity and not diversity or, is a way to kind of frame that for people in their minds. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, love it. Similarly, again, just reading from the website, the organization believes that working together in compassion, we will build dance education communities for all. So what does it feel like and look like to do that work with compassion, right? As that guiding value, I think is an interesting question. And what do dance education communities for all look and feel like? Like, what is that vision, right, that you're working towards? Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you looking to build? And what does that feel like?
Yeah. So we say compassion because when we really mean coming from a place of understanding. So when you say equity, what that means is meeting folks where they are. Not everybody on their journey to building more anti-racist, more anti-othering, and more anti-abusive communities are at the same spot, right? Some person might be in stage one where they just realized, oh my goodness, there's oppressive systems put into place. Some person might be like, I read all these books about being anti-racist and I'm ready to commit, right? So when we say coming from a place of compassion, I think that some folks get really angry when people aren't where you want them to be in their journey, when people are just starting. And so we really talk about like meeting everybody where they are and say, hey, you might be in this beginning stages and that's okay too. We're going to help move you along. And hey, you might be ready to, change all the structures in your organizations, the systems within your organizations, but you just need a guide and we're here to help you as well. When you come from a place of compassion, I think a lot of this work is must come from a place of compassion because if we don't have compassion starting with ourselves, we can't really practice compassion for others. And so if we can start and say like, hey, this is where I'm also in my journey and I have compassion for that, then I can also be compassionate when other people are in different parts of their journey and understand that's where they come from, and that's okay too. We all have our own individual paths, and even though it might not be where we want people to be, we have to respect where they are. It doesn't mean that we allow them to use oppressive language or oppressive comments. We still say call them in instead of calling them out. We still call them in as friends and community members to be better and hold themselves accountable. There's this kind of debate going on right now in the community about like, can we hold other people accountable? And for me, I'm like, I don't believe we really can. I think the end of accountability is changed behavior. So that means it's an individual's responsibility. We can call people out. We can call people in. We can shame people. We can blame people. We can do all of these things, but we really cannot hold people accountable. What we can do is be compassionate towards where they are in their journey and hold ourselves and any organization or place in where we're in a position of power, be accountable there. So that's kind of where I'm at there. And then to answer your other question, what do dance education communities all look and feel like? Like, what's this vision? There's no such thing as perfect. What I imagine is that people are always working to be more safe, more equitable, and more inclusive. Having real conversations with themselves, with their community, with the organizations they lead, with the organizations they're a part of. Understand that they will make mistakes. And Mia Mingus, who is a disability justice advocate and transformative justice advocate as well, Mia talks a lot about this whole idea of accountability pods and like building within our organizations and with these dance structures, like groups of people that you go to when you create harm to hold you accountable, to help hold you accountable. But again, you still have to take that step. And groups of people that when harm has occurred towards you or at you, that you can go to get healing and support. So that's what I imagine these dance education spaces to look like. Like we're really like there for each other and providing the support that we need to heal and the support that we need to hold ourselves accountable for when harm occurs.
Love it. Yeah, I was just thinking of it. I think it's a quote from Brittany Packnett, who's this amazing activist and advocate. I don't care when you got woke or where you are with that. I care that you stay woke. Like the important thing is moving forward. Like, what are you going to do? How are you going to act? What effect will you have on the communities that you're a part of and around you?
Yeah, totally.
I love that.
Yeah. I listen to her podcast. Is it Packnetty? I'm just checking now.
Her social media handles are Miss Pacyetti. But yeah, her podcast is great. Hard recommend for everyone. Undistracted.
Yeah, I just listened to it this morning. So good.
Love it. Yeah, and that idea of like the work is never done, like and it's similar to art. It's like you could just keep going and going and going forever. With art, like you got to pack it up and present the thing at some point. And with this justice oriented work, it's like you got to get the numbers, and there's certain points when you're looking at what is there. But yeah, the work is never done because, again, there's no such thing as perfect, but you're working towards that. It's like with dance, there's no such thing as perfect, but you're always working to perfect.
Or whatever,
which could be a whole other conversation, but
yeah, or whatever perfect means to you. And I don't even like that term because I feel like it's like very, like, I don't know, it could be harmful just because like perfect is so subjective, and like your perfect compared to somebody else's perfect are two different things. So I don't know what the language would be. Maybe we can figure that out together. But I just feel like working towards just being better than what you did the day before. Like if you're gonna do an event, just do better than you did the last event, or better than you did the last convention, or better than you did the last city. Like I just feel like that's kind of the process that we want people to be thinking towards, and having this like growth mindset instead of like I'm an expert. Hate that term. I'm an expert now. I know everything. I've been doing this for 40 years. Okay. And we should always be learning and growing.
Well, 40 years ago, this was the thing, and this was what was known. 40 years later, not so much.
Was taught in studios. Like,
right.
You have a lot to learn. I remember when hip hop was like shunned from studios, and you weren't allowed to, like, it wasn't treated as serious dancing. And now people are, teaching hip hop all over the country without understanding the cultural significance of it.
Yeah.
It's like,
this is a great episode actually that taught me a lot about the African roots and the cosmology and the spirituality and religion from like directly from Africa. In such a beautiful way but the way it's been that those roots not acknowledged, sort of tainted. It is cultural appropriation. Like it's right there. I think what was it? Words That Move Me podcast, another great dance podcast. But she had a great episode on that again, taught me a lot.
Yeah. And I think like, most of what we see as competition and convention dance today comes from the African diaspora, like pretty much every style that you see. So to really, like for me, and I know some other organizations are different. I think, I'm not quite sure where they're at, but I know for us at DEA, and I'm trying to go DEEA because the saying the two E's is too hard. So
I like that.
DEEA.
I like that. DEEA. I like it.
DEEA. Okay. But I think that hip hop, like people that are not Black are doing hip hop. People that are not Black will be continuing to do hip hop. For us, the solution isn't saying you shouldn't be doing hip hop because you're not Black. For us, the solution is you need to have the education and the tools to understand where this movement comes from. You can really honor its roots and honor its, experience. Like I learned about the dab, the dab, that movement. It's like a drug reference. Did you know that?
I did not know that. Right? I did not know that.
Hip hop is about, hip hop starts in these like parties, these dance parties where people are having fun, doing lots of different things. And like, that's where movement comes from. And so like not understanding about hip hop culture and hip hop origins and where things come from, and then just doing it in a competition or doing it in studio, like you're missing like so many things there. You start with the African diaspora, then you go to the Bronx, you talk about what it was like there. And hip hop and jazz really come from the oppression of Black people. And like
and the creativity that they could create despite and what the being that fueled that. Yeah.
But this is kind of like their revolt, their revolution against the oppression. This is how they overcame that oppression, was through this art, through this movement. Like, and maybe not overcame in like social structures, but like in their souls, because they got a way to tell their stories. Like that's where hip hop comes from. Don't push me because I'm close to the edge. You know what I mean? Like that's where these words come from. And not understanding that and understanding that lineage, we do that in ballet. We understand the lineage in ballet. We look at ballet like that. The fact that we don't look at these dance styles, jazz, tap, hip hop that come from the African diaspora. And also in ballet, look at the Moors and all those people that, I love history. I love dance history.
Love it. Love it all. Go ahead, please. Go on.
Talk about dance history forever. But for me, then it goes to is like, this is what happened and this is why it's relevant now.
Right.
And this is why maybe you should be doing the dab in your hip hop dances, because this is what it really means. or so on and so forth. So yeah.
Two 8-year-olds. Yeah, maybe
Yeah.
maybe you at least say that for your teen class.
Yeah, and we have a great person who is part of our team, Dr. Takia Amin, who is just like brilliant, like dance historian, and she's just like so inspirational, so brilliant, and she talks a lot about like the African diaspora throughout dance, and dismantling the pedagogical ideas of like what is technique, and all of these things. So sorry, I just
right. I love it. I'm actually writing a piece about, and this is probably another thing we could go off about for a while, but the phrase ballet is the foundation of all dance forms, which I'm sure you've heard many times.
Yeah.
And I heard all throughout my dance studio life, and I'm like, okay, my dance teacher authority is saying that. Okay, I believe it. But like you were just saying, like Afro diasporic dances, tap and jazz, and so much of modern dance, all those influences. That if you're going to say anything influenced most dance forms, I'm going to say it's that. But
yeah, for sure. And like, not to say that some of the movement aren't similar. Like hip hop, you need a strong plie or a bend in your knees, right? So it's not saying that. I just think that language just makes it European centric and focused, as opposed to like, this comes from Africans from all over Africa, and most significantly West Africa, because those are the folks that a lot of the folks that came over due to the enslavement and the transatlantic slave trade. So yeah.
Love it. Yeah, that's probably another tangent we could go off on, but I do want to ask about, as mentioned, you also run Liberate Artists and Always Enough Foundation.
Yes.
Number one, how is the work of running these separate organizations in conversation to you, if at all? And two, that is a lot to manage. What helps you maintain balance?
Yeah.
And calm?
I don't know if I have that. But so I call DEA, DEA, Always Enough Foundation, and Liberate Artists a trifecta of change. So it's a triangle.
Love it. Triangle.
Yes, it's a little triangle. So we start with Liberate. Liberate is the application of what a safe, equitable, and inclusive organization is growing to be. We're not perfect. We're not a dance competition or dance convention. We're a performing arts and dance organization. Come from a musical theater background, so it's like dance, but through like a musical theater lens. And we try a lot of things out there. We've been able to, over the past 7 years, like really create a space that was like everything that I wish I had as a little kid. Like where we know every kid's name that comes in, and you see faculty and staff that look like you, and we have like time to be friends and make friends with everybody, and everybody's reminded you are enough exactly as you are in the skin and body you are in. And I'm really proud of what we created at Liberate. So that's kind of like the application. Always Enough Foundation, what we do there is we break the economic barriers to access and provide socio-emotional support to dancers, so that essentially we raise money and we send them to safe, equitable, and inclusive dance organizations, because it is not enough to just find Black kids, find marginalized kids, and then just send them to dance organizations that are not safe, equitable, and inclusive. Because my story is I went to school for musical theater, experienced a lot of racism and harm, that after I graduated, I tried to kill myself because I didn't think I deserved to be here. And so when we talk about racism, we're not just talking about racist police officers or folks that are, racist killing people. It's the emotional and the trauma that occurs by being in these spaces that you're being told that this is not for you. You don't belong here. You're not enough. You will never be enough. You need to be this to be enough. You have to change who you are as a Black person to be able to fit in these spaces. So my perspective is very, very different than other people, because I, as an artist, experienced that. I, as an artist, experienced trauma and othering and racism in these art spaces where I thought I didn't even belong here. So Always Enough Foundation is kind of like, I don't want to say kind of like, we help organizations, understand what they need to be in order for us to send kids to them. And we make sure that they have the tools so that when kids go there, they are safe. And that when they come back, they also have that socio-emotional support to be able to understand, hey, you might have been in a majority white space that you're not used to. And how do you feel about this? And how can we support you through this, what this might feel like? And And not just white, but like all marginalized people. Like if you are disabled, being in a predominantly able-bodied space, and like what accommodations were we able to provide for you or help support you through that? So it's not, and I feel like a lot of, this is why the diversity bugs me, because I see a lot of organizations popping up that are like, we're just going to help BIPOC people. First, I don't really identify with
Scholarships, here we
that.
go, money.
We're just going to give scholarships. But like, but then allowing for these kids to be further harmed because the organizations they're
Right.
sending to, like, what kind of evaluation did you do? Do they have a DEI plan in place? Do they have policies in place? What happens and what systems do they call when they need to report harm? Like, these are like, and that's what we do. So then that goes to DEEA, sorry, I got to get to it, which provides the training for these organizations if they don't have these DEI plans, which I haven't met one that does, to really like have that training, to have that support, to be guided through that process so that we're not continuing to send kids to places that are causing harm.
Right. And all these conversations about like, oh, look at these dance companies, like they might have a token Latinx person and a token Black person, but it's like, and they're like, well, they're not coming to our auditions, or like, you know, they're trying to find them. And it's like, well, it starts earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Are there kids who are getting this quality dance training?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's the two steps. It's like, okay, can their families afford it? Like that could be the simple answer. And then when they get there, do they feel supported enough to stay and to thrive and to be all they can be as artists? So
and are you
yeah,
signaling
I think
all people that your organization is for all people? Like, are you signaling visibly? Like, if I were to do an audit of your organization visibly, does it look like there are Black kids or marginalized kids or fat dancers or dancers with different abilities that you know, like, no.
Yeah.
And when they get
Yeah.
there, are you going to make them feel like crap because they're not what you expect, you know, dancers to be? All bodies can be dancing bodies if they choose to be. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. It really frustrates me because I don't think
Love
that
it. Love
we
it.
realize, like, what's at stake here.
Right. Right. Yeah. And going back to competitions, kind of what you're starting about talking about DWE's work, looking at just the imagery and like, if
Yeah.
you go to like these Instagram accounts of these competitions, thin, tall, white, mostly girls
Mhm.
is what you're going to see in those images. And that's like when I think of like images from competition with the like the banner of the competition, like stage whatever, or like stage stoppers. I don't know.
Yeah, sure.
Tall, thin white girls is what I am picturing in my mind because that's the imagery. And you know, I'm an able-bodied white person. Like it would be different for me if I were in one of those marginalized groups that I was looking at that. I think I would feel like that's not for me. That's a problem.
It is. And like you know, there are some really great competitions and conventions that we've got to work with that are like, hey, I didn't even notice this. How can we move forward? For the folks that are resistant, I feel like it's like, why are you resistant?
Yeah.
And it's because you don't realize that the world that you live in is catered towards you. And so it doesn't look any different to you. So Audrey is our company coordinator at Liberate Artists. So she like is my right hand person, and we do these like costume guides because we do like a shop your own closet kind of performance at the end of Inspire, which is our New York City event. And she was, you know, looking for costume ideas for people. And like what she was saying is like she had to type in Black in order to find it. So she was like, mom outfit, and all these white moms came up. She couldn't find any Black moms. She had to type in Black mom outfit in order for Black moms to come up. And like that's kind of that's what it's like to be a Black person in America. You have to signify that this is Black people in order for you to see yourself, when it shouldn't be that way. When all people should be represented in your advertising, at your events. And like you said, they should feel, not only see themselves, but feel comfortable once they get there to be themselves.
Right. Whew, so powerful. I appreciate your passion. It's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I feel like you have signaled on this a little bit, but just to maybe go deeper, if there's anything else you wanted to say.
Mm-hmm.
And I first actually was thinking of this as GWA, but you could say it out of any of the organizations. Let's just say your work as an justice-oriented administrator. What's one thing in your work that you're particularly proud of, and in that triangle of change? And what's a growth area, a goal, something that you're working on or towards? So 2 parts there.
Yeah, so for DWA, I'm just really proud of the team that we've been able to get on board. They're amazing. We have Bree and Lily, who are part of our DEA advocates, and then an amazing advisory board. Brian Friedman has been such a great support of this work since day one. Like, and he
Great. Yeah.
really organized. He's amazing. Like, um, I can't say good enough things about him, and just like how much he cares about equity and dance spaces and all the work he's been doing previously. And I'm just so glad he is who he is and he's on this planet. But he really heralded like our advisory board and brought together Luther Brown and Lorian Gibson, and we have Jamal Story and Dr. Tikini Amin, and I'm really proud of that because we're just starting, and to be able to get all these people on board and be behind this mission, and really like help push this forward in a way that is really going to affect positive change within the dance community is like overwhelmingly fantastic. And I'm so grateful for them. And I'm excited to get to work. This fall, we really are going to be pushing things again as we start solidifying all of our studios and dance competitions and conventions for training. So I'm really proud of that. Also with Liberate and Always Enough Foundation, I'm proud that Liberate survived the pandemic. It's been really difficult. I don't know how competition and conventions do it when they have like 30 cities. Like we just had one event and it was so hard. It is so hard. So I'm just proud that we're surviving, and I'm proud that Always Enough Foundation was created, and excited to help so many kids. We're able to give out our first round of scholarships, which is going to be 12 $100 stipends for families that come to our events this summer for 12 families. And for us, it's not just about tuition, it's also about accommodations, travel, and meals that we also cover as well. Growth area. I need to be talking more, and I need to be the face of DWEA a little bit more than I am. I feel weird about it because like there's so much trauma and pain associated with like social justice work, and I just don't want to. Like, I know it's weird to say, but like I don't want to be known for like doing what I think is right and making things better for kids so they don't have to experience what I experienced. But I also understand like people need to identify like a face with a organization. So I really need to be better about that like this fall, and just like start doing lives and like talking. But I just feel, you know, I'm just like, let's just do the work. Let's just do the work. But I also understand like I need to do the other stuff too.
Yeah. So it's always a tough balance, your own taking care of yourself and, the time you need and the sort of boundaries you need and what needs to be done for the work. It's another one of those ongoing processes and journeys that we grow in, never done.
But I will. I'm going to put my face out more. I just feel like I'm actually an introvert. Nobody ever believes me, but like I'm actually an introvert. So like it takes a lot. I'm like, I can turn it on really well, but like I don't know. I also just like the work to speak for itself. I don't like to talk a lot. I like to just like show like this is what we're doing. This is how we
yeah.
But it's important to talk to because that's how people get to know you and your organization. So
dialogue. Yep, I love to talk, but my favorite night would be just reading or watching a movie snuggled up in my puppy. I know that introvert life.
I love it. I feel that.
So you mentioned COVID, good times.
Yes.
Yeah, what has kept you, your light, your passion going through all that difficulty, and what are some wins through it all that we can celebrate with you despite the craziness?
Yeah. I don't think that DWEA would have started without COVID. Like I'm pretty sure it wouldn't have. I think the thing about COVID that was positive, even though there was so much like pain and fear and people that didn't make it through, was that we got to slow down and we got to really examine and question the systems that were put into place, and the harm that's been happening in these dance spaces, and in the world, not just dance, in the world. And because we got to slow down, we got to really think like, is this the world or is this the dance community that I want to be a part of? And if not, like how can we make it better? So just as a human, that all of us that are here, that we survived, like, I just think that I have to talk to my body sometimes, be like, body, you helped me, you survived this pandemic, like,
Mm,
you're amazing,
yeah,
you know?
yeah. I have a wise friend too. She'll post things and she'll say she teaches yoga, so she'll say in her yoga classes, our bodies do so much for us, and they're always so kind to us, and we don't always return that favor.
Yeah.
We like put them down and we run them to the ground, but they wake up every morning and walk us to our next place, and
Yeah. I love our bodies. Thank you, body. Thank
yep.
you.
All right. So wonderful stuff. I love it all. To start to wrap up, what are some things coming up that we can keep an eye out for? We can support. What's next?
Okay, so we are doing a training next week. It's completely pay what you can. It's really going to be all about like how to build equitable like summer action, like what action you need to take this summer in order to make sure that your fall is really safe, equitable, inclusive. It's on 6:30, so June 30th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. PT, 12 p.m. to 2 p.m. ET. It's pay what you can, starting from $10. And then we're also doing another mini course called Bias, Resilience, and Dance Education. And this is tools to confront our biases and create more anti-racist, anti-othering, and anti-abusive dance spaces. And that's going to be on Saturday, August 7th from 9 to 11 PT or 12 to 2 ET. Again, pay what you can. We're also still bringing in folks that are studios, dance competitions, and conventions for our training. We have a bunch lined up. All of July and most of August is already booked up, which is really exciting. And we're excited to be bringing on organizations to be courageous with us and to build more safe, equitable, and inclusive dance spaces.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Doing the work with so many different organizations, all booked up.
Yeah. It's
so
been
great.
It's been, but like, I think I never answered your question. Like, how do you manage it all? I don't ask me in a year. I don't really, right now it's like, oh,
It just happens. Somehow it happens.
I'm like,
Sometimes
I've been working since 4:30 this morning. That's how it happened. Yeah, bananas. But yeah.
Yep. Well, I'm sure you have that awareness of that time for rest, and sometimes also your body just demands it, and you have no choice but to give in.
Hopefully I'll get there soon. I really I don't think I'm gonna rest until August, but that's okay because I got myself into this and I'm excited about all this work. Also, I'd like to follow on all the handles at Liberate Artist, at Always Enough Foundation, and at Dance Equity Association. You'll put that up. Thank you.
All up. Everyone follow, support how you can. Training sounds great. Get involved if you can. I'm gonna check my schedule. I'm in intensive training right now for yoga teaching.
That's
teacher training. But hopefully I can make it. We'll see.
What kind of yoga are you doing? Vinyasa?
Yes. It's the teachers are trained in the Yoga Works method, which is an interesting kind of Iyengar, which is more hybrid. It's there's an alignment focus, but there also is flow.
Yeah,
I did.
Yoga Works in LA, and I've done it in New York too. But yeah, I mean, I'm a big yoga person, so that's super cool.
Yeah. Tuning into our bodies, it starts there, and then the work goes out. That's what I'm all about.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Yeah. All right. I know you got a busy day, so I won't keep you. Thank you so much. So many great little nuggets, threads to pull and think on. So I love doing this. I love dialogue.
Yeah. Thank you. You're a rock star. I had so much fun.
You're a rock star. All right. I'll again follow all the handles. This conversation resonated with you. Like, subscribe, comment, share with someone else you think might also enjoy. And we will see you next time. Thanks so much.